Now, okay, here we go. Single I salute. I'm Lord Maitreya, the hip hop futurist. You're now tuned into the Super Longevity Institute podcast. Today, I have a special guest, Dr. Ilia Stambler PhD at the Department of Science, Technology, and Society, Ilan University Israel. His research has focused on the historical and social implications of aging and life extension. He is also involved in the mathematical modeling of aging and age related disease. He is the author of A History of Life Extension in the 20th Century and Longevity Promotion Multidisciplinary Perspectives. He is actively involved in advocacy for aging and longevity research and is the chair of the Israeli Longevity Alliance and executive committee member of International Society on Aging and Disease. His papers have appeared in Progress in Neurobiology, Aging Disease, Cancer Detection and Prevention, and other journals. I'm so glad to see him today. I'm glad he was able to make it. It's a pleasure to have you as a guest, Dr. Stambler. How are you doing today?
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Dr. Stambler is live in Israel right now, so yeah. Uh, you know what? Let me just go in here real quick. My audience is just starting to learn about life extension. Can you just give us a brief uh, this definition of what is meant by the term radical life extension?
Right, right. So it's kind of a big issue. There's a debate whether we should extend life expectancy or lifespan or healthy life expectancy, all kinds of terms. Basically what it means right now, people usually don't live beyond a certain age,
Right.
and radical life extension means going far beyond this current limit. So basically, we all want to reach good old age and good health, but if we want to get farther than that, we need to develop life extension technologies, something more advanced.
Thank you for that. Um, can you tell us on how you got interested in the field of life extension? What made you? What got you interested in this field? It's not, it's not very popular.
Right, right. I have two questions for that. First of
Mm,
all, my personal story is, I don't know, maybe the people like you and me were kind of special. I
mm.
thought about it when I was six, when my
Wow,
grandfather understood that my grandfather is going to die. I thought, no,
wow,
it's not right. Something must be done about it. And I went to him and said, listen, are you going to die? He said, you don't have to think about it. You have to think about playing, about kids stuff. But I never forgot about it. So that's been
wow.
my interest since then. I was born in the Soviet Union. In the Soviet Union, there was a more popular topic than probably in some other places.
Yeah, yeah,
People believed in a better future,
yeah.
a better world. So it was a part of the deal. But my second answer to that is, you ask me why I'm interested. I'm asking everybody else why they are not interested. It's probably
That's
the
right.
most the most interesting, the most vital topic to our soul. So why aren't they interested? Do they want to die? Do they have some kind of death wish? They are strange. We are the normal people.
Yeah, you're not lying, and I'm glad you made that uh, discrepancy. I'm glad you asked that question because I'm trying to figure out why they're not into life extension. I just had a discussion with a young lady who just told me aging is natural. I said, "Whoa!" I said, you're on the internet talking about what's natural on the internet texting." It just amazes me. And please tell us about the Longevity Alliance organization that you're involved with. What is that about, and how can one become a member of it?
Well, there are several longevity alliances I'm involved in. One in Israel, the Israel Longevity Alliance, and also the umbrella organization, the International Longevity Alliance. At its peak, it had about 60 emerging groups in 60 countries.
Wow,
Now it's a little smaller. It only has 21 registered NGOs in 19 countries.
wow,
Still, it's a pretty impressive organization. So how you can join? There is a form at the ILA website to join. We don't just accept, everybody would happy to, but we almost accept serious activists, serious longevity activists, either people who prove themselves as activists or represent a pro-longevity organization, an NGO. So you can submit your application, and we will have an interview and decide. But generally, our goal is really to create some kind of umbrella to boost longevity activism internationally, because some people focus only in the United States, only England, only Russia, or some other place. So we want to spread all over the world, also in places where it is less developed, in Africa, in South America, places like that.
That's wonderful, and I want to give a shout out to all my comrades in Israel that is fighting aging and doing activism against aging. Your comrade Maitreya in the States says peace to y'all. Um, what more? You have a book called The History of Life Extension. Let me just show the audience. I love this book, by the way. This was This was very needed. This is such a necessary book. I said the history. I went online right away. As soon as I seen the title, I went to Amazon. I bought it right away. I was like, wow, this is a book that you don't really see that often. What prompted you to write a book about the historical side of life extension? Very interesting.
Thanks for that. First of all, there's another one.
Yes, I got to get that.
Okay, so I hope we'll speak about it
I got to
more
get that.
later. Basically, why I did that, because it's the problem with funding for life extension research. That was probably history is probably one of the few things that you can do for life extension without any funding. So that was my option, to contribute to life extension. I could have been, in some other fields, but that was my option. I was working, and it's something I had to choose. But I'm glad I did. I am glad I did.
I'm
I
glad
think
too.
it's a good contribution.
Sure
Beyond
is.
the actual research, the actual lab research that people do, you have to know the culture, the history, the ideology. So this book is all about that.
Wow.
Uh,
Wow. Uh, what can we learn historically about the history of life extension in the 20th century? Like when we walk away for the people who didn't read the book, what should they walk away with a sense of after reading it?
they say history is written and taught by the winners, right?
That's true. Yeah.
So if you want to feel like a winner, if you want to believe in your movement, you have to know your history. You have to know where people come from. You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised. People weren't stupid back then, even 100 years ago or 200 years ago, and pretty much all of our science is built on their shoulders. So it's important to recognize their contribution. That's the basic reason. I also see that people really provide some good science, provide some good ideological arguments, also some cultural arguments. So we're better immersed in this milieu, as they say, in social sciences, and to get some nourishment for extension goals.
Yeah. Very valuable point. Very valuable point. Because we get caught up in so much of the science part that we might leave out other parts that's just as valuable, just as valuable. And we are standing on the shoulders of giants, and those people who contributed, they need to be recognized for their great work, uh, and that's why we're here today, is because of what they did in the past. So I really appreciate this book. Really. In Israel, what is the general attitudes towards life extension? I know what they are here in the States. I was
Yeah, here they're probably a little better, but also thanks
I
to our
felt
advocacy, I must be proud or honest, whatever. But I feel that there's our contribution. About 15 years ago or 17 years ago, we started to organize meetings about life extension in Ilan University and other places. Open a website. So we're really, pumping up this information. And then the news media found about us, and they started producing positive articles. Maybe some places the articles are more negative. Here in Israel, they're positive because they were impressed. They were, uh, they were interested. So it wasn't, like negative press in some other places. And generally, bit by bit, ideas of life extension went into mainstream. I could say, right now we accept it in places like Knesset. We organize discussions in Knesset with some high standing officials. So I'm not speaking about radical life extension of those meetings, just about health and longevity.
Right.
But it's understood that health and longevity is the basis. Improving the aging process is the basis. Later, when the science develops more, we can think of more advanced opportunities. But right now, it is not a wild idea in Israel that it is possible to intervene into aging process to
I
extend
figured
healthy
that.
life. So I would say the acceptance in Israel is quite good. The investment, the actual involvement of people in this topic is not so good. We still need to get more people on board to do more work. But at least in terms of public acceptance, it's pretty much mainstream. So I'm glad for that. I hope also for other places.
I'm glad for that too, and I kind of expected that, to be honest with you, but I'm glad you shared that with us too. I read in your what made France solid ground for life extension in the early 20th century. What made it a soil ground for that to take place in France?
Right, right. Probably it was a part of the general progressive attitude. The people are always interested in life extension. Emperors and kings. In China it was 200 years before the Common Era that the Emperor Shi Huangdi was interested, but it was only for the emperors.
Makes
And
sense.
the
That makes sense.
in France, with the general egalitarian movement, with the progressive movement that started there, it was become more available for people. So that's probably a big part of the reason why it originated there. Uh, you say about new audience, that's exactly the case. They just brought a new audience to the movement. So that's why France is important, and also all kinds of additional influences from France, like the beginning of the germ theory by Pasteur. Also, a very prominent life extension scientist, Elie Mechnikov, worked there. Also, a part of the equation. But basically, France just provided some fertile ground for the movement for various reasons, ideological, economical. And that's also a lesson we need to learn. If we want life extension to develop, if we want the therapies to be produced, we need to think also of the environment, the general social situation that will be either supportive or detrimental for this pursuit. So it's important also to look at the ground on which the tree of life extension grows.
Yes, yes, definitely. Tell us about your work on the mathematical modeling of aging and age-related disease. I was curious about that.
Yeah, that's our joint work with my colleague Dr. David Bloch here in Israel. He's the mathematician. I'm mostly responsible for the interpretation, for the biological part, and basically we try to introduce methods from information theory, measures like mutual information, normalized mutual information, into measurement of aging, biomarkers of aging, measurement of multimorbidity. Published over a dozen papers on that with good journals. So I also try to be involved in actual science, but that's not my main issue. Not the hard science, not the actual scientific research, but
Right.
mainly the advocacy and activism and social aspects. That's more my area.
Definitely. And it's very important, vital area as well. Um, what generic biomedical methods in the 20th century was associated with radical hopes for life extension?
Yeah,
Just a few.
basically pretty much all we hear about now, like stem cells and pharmaceuticals, they all born about 100 years ago. If you speak about rapamycin, it's from about 40, 50 years ago. If you speak about metformin, it's 70 or 80 years ago. Methylene blue, 150 years ago. People think it's very modern, advanced drugs. Actually, they all come from the 20th century. Also, stem cells. So my book is more about the groundwork for this therapies, like stem cells, also diet, probiotic diet, color restriction. It all comes from the beginning of the 20th century. So
Mm.
that's basically the areas.
Wow. Um, is there any chronics facilities in Israel?
No, no. Actually, we were thinking about establishing it, but you can't do everything.
Right.
I decided to focus on healthy aging, healthy longevity, on geroscience. To advance that as an activist. So that's my area, and other people's were less involved. So
Mm-mm.
it didn't
I
come
was
to
just curious because, would they even allow that in Israel? Would there be any attitudes that will be against that, having a chronics facility?
No, not at all. Actually,
Okay.
we investigated this topic, and
Oh,
in Judaism there absolutely
that's what I was thinking.
no problems with that. We could
Oh, okay.
find a source in the Old Testament or in the Talmud that it's okay, that people
Mm,
the animation is suspended. There's some problem about the mummification. The Jewish religion gets mummification, but it's not exactly mummification that
right.
that you do. It's more like freezing. There's a very well developed artificial insemination industry in Israel, and it's exactly the same. So. So basically, there would be no problem with that in Israel. But once again, it just somebody had to take it in their hands and
Right.
do it. But no such person was found for
Maybe
now.
somebody watching this video. No, okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Maybe
please.
inspired. Maybe
All I'm
somebody
saying
watching
is,
this video. They might be
all
inspired.
I'm
Never
saying is
know. Never know. Okay.
exactly. All I'm saying is to get people to do stuff.
Yeah, it's
I'm
fine.
not saying
Action.
anything that
Yeah. Action. Yep. So right. Um, what are the origins of the life extension movement in the 20th century? Like,
well, I would single out, this person, Eli Mechnikov. He was very fundamental for the field. He probably created the first truly scientific, theory of aging based on the observation of living tissue. He was also Nobel laureate. He was very influential. But of course, the history of the origin can be traced back thousands of years to ancient Egypt, to ancient China. People who are interested. You can't pinpoint to a certain origin. It's been with human nature for all our history. But
that's
if
true.
if you need some people to single out, I would say Mechnikov and people like him.
That's so true. So true. Um, let's see. Oh, I want to ask this too. Describe some of the dichotomy between reductionists and holistic methods in the 20th century history of radical life extension.
Thanks for the question too. There's especially been a special chapter about it in this book. Can you see it?
Yes, gotta get that.
Uh, that's very central in life extension. There's a big debate about whether life can be reduced to lesser components or whether it is the holistic concept. So some people went into reductionism, said, if we find a specific gland, let's say sex gland, and we make an operation on it and make a grafting, person will be rejuvenated. It turned out it didn't work. The organism ages as a whole, not just any specific part. So you can break down a person into its parts and then put them together
Right.
better. But on the other hand, when people went into the holistic extreme, they started to talk in vague terms, about fields and about wholeness, and eventually you don't know what you're supposed to do actually.
Yeah.
So you need to recognize both parts of the equation. Need a balance between holism and reductionism, both to understand the mechanism and understand that things work together, things represent a whole. So only in this way, I believe, we can really advance in the science of life extension. But at least we need to recognize those parts. At least we need to recognize those concepts of reductionism and holism, and then there, as they say, conflict and cooperation at the same time.
Wow. Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely need a synthesis. Um, how has COVID-19 affected the research of life extension? I know there's been a lot of uh,
Right, right. That's
speed
also
bumps.
the topic I've been involved for the past 9 months at least. Naturally, you understand, and many people now understand that the COVID affects the elder people mostly. So if we really want to fight this epidemic or this crisis, we really need to be able to improve the health of all the people, just to, to reduce the main risk for this disease. Many people still think that if you grab this virus by the horns, by the corona, and throw it out the window, problem solved. No, if you really want to fight this crisis, you need to improve the health of all the people, and that's what the focus should be. And we've been trying to advocate for this since the beginning. We published a paper about the use of stem cells, of mesenchymal stem cells, to treat COVID-19. Uh, Together with colleagues in China, it's the same principle. Mesenchymal stem cells is a very well-known anti-aging treatment. So it showed that it also became effective as a treatment for COVID, and we've been arguing for it all along. We published papers about the immunity is the basis for resilience, and also some advocacy papers in together with some prominent gerontologists like Nir Barzilai and Matt Kaberlein and Felipe Sierra, published a paper in Aging and Disease, Geroscience in the Age of COVID-19. And we try to argue that once again, if we really want to combat this crisis and also prepare for any future crisis, any future epidemics that will mostly affect elder people, we really need to improve the health of all the people, to intervene into aging. And logically, everybody should understand that. Everybody understands that aged people are most affected. So everybody must understand that if you improve aging process, you'll be able to protect the older people.
Right.
But people not making this connection, it amazes me. I don't know why this is happening. But I hope at least more people recognize the importance of aging research now. Uh, Even those people who recognize this importance now have less capability to do research. But I do hope when this thing is overcome or subsides, people will leverage this motivation, this understanding about the importance of aging, and do more research, invest more in the field. So that's basically my view.
Wow. That brings me to my next question. How has the social economic backgrounds of the proponents of radical life extension affect the science they pursue?
Yeah, that's exactly that. You cannot do research without funding. Basically, that it comes to that, and the research is not funded if people don't believe in what you're doing. If
Wow.
they think that aging is natural, that people are supposed to die at a certain age, let's say 75, and life extension is a bad thing, that you only have to improve health until a certain limit. With all the social beliefs, it is very difficult to advance the actual science. So basically, we also, beside the science, we also need to think about all those social constraints or support frameworks. So it's just not just the domain of scientists. That's what I've been trying to argue. It's not just the domain of scientists. It's the domain of the whole society. The whole society can be involved in this, can be supportive, even as a political force. So that's basically the role of society in this. And not to mention that the every person can be citizen scientist.
Right.
There is no more
I say
division
that all the
between
time.
scientists that sit in the
That's
ivory
right.
tower, and the rest of us, the slopes who
Great
give the
point.
funding.
That's right.
And the more citizen science we have, the more people become
That's right.
researching for themselves, the better will be the quality of science, also of professional science, because they'll be simply not be able to, to fabricate.
Great point. Great point. And I just was making this point like last week. I was like, we need more citizen scientists. Well, and another reason why I talked about the social economic backgrounds is because when you look through history, people like the first emperor of China, they was living a great life. I mean, there was a lot of war and stuff, but uh, they were living great lives. They had the gold, they had everything they wanted. And then you look at the pharaohs; they wanted to live long too. They wanted to live forever. So it seems to me that the better people's lives are in general, they will start to ask themselves the questions about, they will want to live a little bit longer, and they will request the scientists to figure it out once their life has improved considerably, as in general. Um,
Yes, absolutely. Great point, by the way. Also, a point I've been making all along. The Human Development Index. What is it composed of? It is composed of economic status, education, and longevity. So those three really go together. Improve education, improve longevity, and economic status. Improve economic status, improve longevity, and education. Those three are really inseparable. So
Yes.
so longevity is kind of a proxy for all the good we want in this life, for education, for security, for economic development, everything. So I
Yes.
personally I focus on longevity, because if we're really able to advance longevity, we'll be able to advance all the other values that we have.
Wow. Um, what is some of the advocacy that you've done in Israel around life extension? Like, what is some of the stuff that you've been involved with lately?
Yeah, we are most active in the last couple. I've been involved in in high level advocacy in Israel since about 2012, when we first wrote a petition to Knesset, to all the 120 members of Knesset, to request to create infrastructure to support health and longevity research, and application. And since then, we've been continuing our advocacy association. Now it's not so much the Israel Longevity Alliance; it's now more the association called VETEC, the Movement for Longevity and Quality of Life. So we gathered a good panel of scientists and advisory board. We organized international conferences. The last year, we organized a conference in Weizmann Institute together with the NIH, with the Neuroscience Interest Group. Also, in 2018, we organized a couple of meetings in Knesset, in the Committee on Technology, on Science and Technology. So it was also important. And we do this in cooperation with an organization called Disabled Not Half a Person. So that's a very interesting organization, an important organization to know about. About 7 years ago, the attitude to the disabled in Israel, I don't know about other places, in Israel was not so there was not so much interested about this topic, probably as much about aging. But they were actually able to bring this topic to public agenda. They were real activists. They lobbied. Brought people to the streets. They blocked the roads. They brought in the celebrities. Celebrities went with their slogans. The real activists. You know how the activists is supposed to be. And actually, they were able to change public attitude, to change the law, and eventually they achieved. About 1.5 billion shekel, which is about $450 million, increase for disability pensions. So that's what you can do with activism,
Wow.
with real advocacy. And we should take the example and apply it in aging research, in health and longevity field. And I'm happy then actually cooperating with this organization. I'm now on the board of Disabled Not Half a Person, and together we go to Knesset, we go to decision makers. The problem is now the people are still not as much involved in the aging issue as they were in the disabled issue, but at least it is possible to bring more people if we're really serious about it, if we really do
Yeah.
our activism.
Wow. Your book, longevity promotion, multidisciplinary perspective. What is it about? Because that I haven't taken a look at yet, but I will.
That's the four domains that I'm trying to advance. First of all, the advocacy part. It shows why is it important to promote advocacy for longevity research. Also, some policies that can be advanced. A breakdown. What is it that we can ask the government to do, and also a response to some common questions. That people ask. What about our population? What about this? What about identity, meaning? Just kind of. A frequently asked questions section that I have there. The second part is about history. It's mainly based on the first book, the history of life extensionism. But also, I just focused on certain topics. For example, the history of evolutionary theory in aging, or the contribution of Mechnikov. So that's the history part. The third part is philosophy. Also, there's a lot of philosophical thought involved in longevity. So many people argue that religion is an enemy to longevity. I try to show that actually everybody can be on board with it. Also, religious tradition.
That's right.
Absolutely no distinction. It's a common goal for everybody.
That's right.
That's the third part about longevity philosophy, and the fourth part is about
Sure.
just just science. With some of the developments, scientific developments. I survey in the field of therapy, in the field of diagnostics. So I try to popularize those fields. So that's basically the book. It's not as fat as the first
Yeah.
one, but as a promotional material. Something that you can give to policymakers. Something you can even read as a separate article, separate chapters can be useful.
Can you show the book one more time?
And by the way, you can
Put it
download
right in the there you go.
both books at my website, longevityhistory.com. With both books and also about 50 articles that you can download for free there.
Oh, that's. I will put a link underneath the description. I know the website, so I will definitely put a link underneath the description. Um. Wow. Oh, this is probably a personal question. Oh, are you signed up for Cryonics? I'm just curious. That's just, you don't have to answer that if you don't want.
No, I'm fine with that.
Oh, okay.
Once again, I cannot do everything, right? So first of all, Israel is not available in Cryonics is not available in Israel, so
Right.
I have to make arrangements with the United States. It's not easy.
Yeah, yeah.
Or Russia or some other place. It's
Russia
not
has a
easy.
little.
I
Yeah.
prefer to focus on actual health longevity here and now. Well, if I miss my chance, that would be a shame. I see this. I'm not against cryonics by no means. I think it's a valid insurance policy. Maybe uh, it will work someday. But right now, focus on things that can be done in our lifetime. If I
Right.
miss, I'll have to think about it closer to the deadline.
Well, all the life extension science are not into cryonics. I spoke to Dr. James Hughes, and he didn't. He wasn't 100% sure about cryonics. So there's so much diversity in the life extension community. Not everybody agree. We do agree that we want to reverse the aging process. That's for sure. We all
Yes.
agree about that. We don't
Yeah.
want to. If we can do something about it, we want to do something about it. And when do you actually see from your talks with other scientists? When do you see that we'll be able to extend the lifespan even to another 30 years? I'm not even talking about. I'm talking about just another. Can we just get another 30 years?
Well, sort of disappointed. Right now, nothing. Right now, we don't have anything. Metformin that we've known for 8 years is not going to bring us there. It is a valuable step along the road. It's a valuable building stone. Well advanced, but it's not going to bring us 30 years. What I'm saying, the only thing I'm saying, I'm not recommending any treatments, any herbs or supplements. We all know the things we're supposed to do. Eat well and rest and exercise. That will bring us to our natural, hopefully to our natural limit in good health. I recommend all of that. But if we really want more than that, we really need to invest in science. Probably 100 years ago, people didn't think flying was possible. There was physics. People understood that it's not prohibited by nature. There's no law in nature that prohibits flying, but they just didn't know how to do this technically. So we're exactly in the same point in our life extension uh, pursuit. We understand it is possible, it is feasible. There are proofs in animal models, some effects in humans. We don't know how to extend our life. We just need to invest in science, get many people as scientists, as supporters. In this way, it will be a similar movement as well for the flight.
Um, yeah, I was talking to Dr. Rose, evolutionary biologist, and he said he's on a paleo diet. He
Mm.
swears by the paleo diet. He says we shouldn't be eating bread and stuff like that. I thought it was interesting. Um, what country in the 20th century had the biggest life extension movement?
There's no question about the United States. You may not appreciate
No, it's true.
appreciate,
I understand.
but actually you're living at the foremost at the stronghold of the life extension movement, especially places like California and New York. These are the real strongholds of the life extension movement worldwide. And let me tell you, I've been in this business for 20 years. We started our first life extension website in 2002. Was called Elysian Enterprise, together with Dr. Gates. And you know, 20 years ago, there was nothing except the United States in the life extension
Wow.
field. And gradually, slowly but surely, it began spreading all over the world. And now we see more countries, especially in Asia. China is beginning to be
Yeah.
invested in this area. Korea, Japan, and I'm also happy that also places like Israel became more and more involved.
Me too.
And my goal, as an activist, is that it really spreads all over the world.
Yeah.
Also, the so-called developed world, Africa, the Southeast Asia,
Yeah.
South America, everywhere. So I see this happening. I really see this happening, but it needs some encouragement. But still, the
Yeah.
United States is the leader. There's no question about it. Still, most of the funds are expended there. Most scientists in the area work there. And but that you should encourage them to do more, and to encourage the government to fund them more. There were also many initiatives to increase funding for research, for aging research in the United States, but many of them failed or weren't very productive. So you really need to build up the movement in the United States, as everybody needs to build up the movement in their own country.
Yes. I try to do my best. Um, and I will continue to spread the word because I know that this is a cause that's very dear to my heart. Um, I work in a hospice during the day, so I see a lot of people at the end of their life, and so people talk about aging is not natural, but those people who are in hospice, they don't want to hear that. They wish they can have something that will cure them right away from that situation they're in. So yeah, because I what I see is that even before the science, we need a paradigm shift in the thinking of the people. We have to break the paradigm shift that they have that um and be able to answer all their hostile questions like it's natural to age. uh the earth will become more populated if we reverse the aging process. How will we feed? All those problems can be solved because this science doesn't exist. The same science that you use to reverse the aging process, it doesn't exist in the vacuum. It can be applied in other areas of human endeavor. um what do you think? What are some of the things that you would like to see as far as advocacy is concerned in the world today? What type of advocacy would you like to see?
First of all, in terms of our movement, I would like to see many more people involved. Even people who understand all the rationales, if they understand it is possible to intervene into aging, if they understand that their life actually depends on it, if we are able to find those cures, those treatments in time, even those people that don't do much or don't do anything, they have jobs, they have their other interests, they have our commitments. I'm especially amazed at those people. In politics, you mobilize your own troops. You first mobilize your supporters, then you try to convince somebody else. In our movement, even people who are supposed to be activists, they are not really activists.
Yeah.
We start a petition, 1,000 people all over the world
Yeah,
signed
I've
the
seen
petition.
them. Yeah.
It's something that really amazes me, and those are people who understand everything.
Mm.
It's even before going to people to convince others. So I would really like our movement to become more active. We really should take some examples from activists in other areas. For example, the green activists. The people really believe that if you don't do something now, the earth will die. So we should be able to understand that if we don't do something now for life extension, we will die.
Right.
And quite soon. So I would really like our movement, our advocates, organize and be more active. Even in terms of NGOs, there's still very few NGOs who are really active. Even if some people register an NGO, it does nothing, or drowns in all the bureaucracy. I've seen many such NGOs. I would really want us to establish those active NGOs who will actually be able to, to do things, to go to governments And then, as an end product, I would like to see more calls for research proposals from governments everywhere. It's not such a big chunk of everybody, every country's research money. For example, in Israel, we have the research general research budget of about 1 billion dollars, and the chunk for aging research or even something related to aging is about 0.5% of that. So one of our main advocacy point is to try to increase this percentage, and we're actually successful thanks to our advocacy. There were a couple of calls for research proposals specifically on aging, on health and longevity, and I'm very proud of it. But that's still not enough. Nothing is enough until we
Right.
really have good therapists. Nothing is enough. So I would really like our movement to activate. I don't know how. There's probably a lot of psychological barriers even in our own movement. We get to explain to people about our population, our movement. People like you and me. Let's
Yes.
let's go to the streets and demand life extension. Not many people go.
Yeah.
I hope our movement will really develop, become more active, because once again, our life depends on
I know for sure when the pandemic is over, I'm gonna step it up tenfold. I'm gonna hit the streets. I'm telling you right now. I'm gonna hit the streets because this year has been such a great eye opener and a reality check for me. Um, so in the hip hop movement, see, we come from humble beginnings, so I can, we went from plugging the street light in the sound system in the street light to uh, worldwide culture that have millions of participants. So I know how a movement can be small and then develop into something great that everybody around the world can participate in. Um, I definitely would like to see more documentaries and movies surrounding this idea. Maybe the history. I would like to see the history of the life extension movement on camera. That's what I would like to see. That doesn't
it.
even exist. Dr.
I don't think
Stambler.
anybody even thought about it before you. I
That
wrote a
don't even
book. I
exist.
didn't thought about making a movie about history. There are all kinds of historical epics we have. Why not make one about?
I'm saying. I would
I
go
was
watch
once
it.
wondering why there isn't a movie about Gilgamesh.
Oh, the
There's a
Epic
movie
of
about
Gilgamesh.
Hercules, and why isn't a movie about Gilgamesh? But
Yes. I would definitely like to see that brought to the big screen, and I also would like to see a movie about what's the gentleman's name from Russia, Nikolai Fedorov. He
yes,
was trying to
yes,
do that. Guy was amazing. He was a librarian. He lived very humbly. He only wore like one piece of clothing, but he taught the greatest minds like in Russian history. You know,
exactly.
uh, you know. So yeah, people like Robert Effinger, even Bill Falloon. Bill Falloon and Saul Kent has a wonderful story. They should be on the big screen. Them going against the FDA and the FDA, the government giving them problems for wanting to pursue the aging, reversing the aging cause in the 80s. I mean, that should be on the big screen. Nobody know about that. That should be a
Yeah,
documentary. Where's the documentary? Listen, there's so many different ways you can participate. You don't have to just be a diehard scientist. There's so many different ways you can participate in this cause to reverse the aging process and extend a healthy lifespan. If you're a documentary and you're for the cause, you can do documentaries. If you're a musician, I'm a musician. I'm a hip hop artist. I made music around. I said, you know what? I'm not a scientist, but I'm a damn sure rap about the reversing the aging process, and I don't care how crazy it may sound. I still did it, and the first song about reversing the aging process. But yeah, I really appreciate all your advocacy, Dr. Stambler, and I really thank you for coming on this show. I definitely want to have you back when you write more books or you have anything to say you want to bring. If you have anything you want to tell the public, my platform is always open to any life extensionists around the world. Let me just say that.
thank you, Maitreya. That's exactly the kind of communication I'm interested in. Scientists will do their scientists in conferences, but we really need to bring people with music, with movies, with culture, with everything.
Yes.
Imagine if they invent a pill tomorrow, and
Yes.
nobody will take it. They will say, aging is natural. I prefer to die. It's exactly like a
Yeah.
mass suicide. But so we really need everybody, even if you want people to use those therapies.
I got another question for you. What are some of the scientists in Israel that are in the field of aging? Like, who's some of the biologists that I should know, that we should know about, that are in the field doing some work in the lab?
Last year we organized, as I said, the conference in Weizmann Institute with some of the top scientists. They will actually half and half, half of the scientists from Israel, half from the United States. From the
Mm,
States, people like Nir Barzilai and many others. And from Israel, there are also many great scientists like Chaim Cohen, who does work on sirtuins. Actually, the only one who showed that the sirtuins overexpression prolongs the healthy lifespan in mice. Nobody was able to show it before that, and also Valery Krzyzanowski, who does work on senescent cells and then senolytics, really one of the earliest since the early
mm,
2010s, and Michael Schwartz, who does work on immune therapy, Alzheimer's. Many people, just three out of the
mm,
top of my head, but many people. I think now in Israel, almost every university has a research center on aging or a lab on aging or just plans a research lab or center on aging. So it's really getting into the mainstream, into the academia. But once again, nothing is enough.
mm,
That's what we need to step up our advocacy, because nothing is enough.
mm.
Neither the labs and the centers, but we need the therapists. We need the
So,
actual
so
yeah.
Tyrans, I heard this word before when in relationship to resveratrol before, but can you tell my the audience what Serturians is? I think it was Serturians T1 or something like that, that I was reading about back then.
Sirtuin, yes.
Mm.
Sirtuin is basically an enzyme. So it stabilizes DNA. There are seven types of sirtuins, from one to seven, and most of them has some health promoting effects, because once again they stabilize the DNA. They have some other effects like the increased autophagy and
Mm.
also they kind of mimic caloric restriction. They improve the sensitivity to insulin. All kinds of things those
Mm.
enzymes do. And so the thought was that by overexpression, the genetic overexpression of the sirtuins, it will be possible to extend life and health. And it was actually done, by our Barland professor Chaim Cohen. And so there's a rationale in that. And another thing is you can also stimulate those genes. You
Mm.
cannot just overexpress them genetically. You can also stimulate them with pharmaceuticals. So
Right.
it's also the part of the research, a very interesting direction.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I asked you that question too because tomorrow I will be doing I have a special guest, Dr. Philip Norrie, who's a cardiologist who talks about resveratrol all the time. He spoke about how resveratrol activated sirtuins in the lab. So that's why I thought I just wanted to bring that up because I'm gonna talk more about it tomorrow with Dr. Philip Norrie. Um, yeah, anything you would like to say to the my audience before we head out?
Just once again, sirtuins are great, and all kinds of other things like NAD boosters and senolytics. They are wonderful. Just a step. Don't expect to live forever or 30 years more because of those therapies. This is
Right,
just a step on the road,
that's right.
and we really need to pave this road. If you really want to advance to more radical, to more effective therapies, we really need to build up our advocacy. We need to invest more in science, more in education. So that's where I see the whole society, mobilizing. So if that's the message that can be conveyed to audience, I'm very happy.
Wow, that was great. And Dr. Ilia Stambler, it's been a pleasure to talk with you to this today. Um, thanks for all your advocacy and thanks for definitely putting out that book about the historical perspective of life extension. You have a great evening.
Thank you. It was a
Well,
pleasure. Thank you.
it's evening over there, right? It's nighttime over there. And you're in Tel Aviv.
It's about 7
It's
p.m.
about
It's
seven.
not.
It is. It's morning time over here. All right. Thank you, man. Really
Okay.
appreciate you.
Okay.
All
Bye.
right.
Thanks.
Bye.